I'm Lawrence Francis, host of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you to a special episode with Milos Panjkovic of Serbian winery Vinarija Panjkovic. This episode has been specially commissioned for your listening pleasure by Vinarija Panjkovic. This is an episode which weaves together Interpreting Wine's 6 wine stories: people, culture, geography, geology, viticulture, and winemaking. Vinarija Panjkovic sits overlooking the Danube in the Smederevo region of Serbia, situated only around 45 kilometers or a 1-hour drive from the Serbian capital, Belgrade. Their vineyards sit at an altitude of 200 meters, oriented towards the setting sun, producing the second sun phenomena, a double exposure to the setting sun reflected in the mighty Danube. It is this view and this place which captivated Milos and his family before him, and is the ultimate motivation for this current growth phase of the winery. Not seeking to increase production, but to grow quality by faithfully expressing the terroir in his wines, and welcoming more wine lovers and professionals to the site. This sees Milos working with others in Serbia to both raise the profile of this region for wine production and for enotourism. Milos will also talk to the history of Serbian wine production, wines that were highly regarded during the Bordeaux Wine Exhibition of 1882, and which even back then left a better impression on the grand jury than their reputation suggested. In May 2024, 142 years on from the Bordeaux Wine Exhibition, Vinarija Panjkovic will be exhibiting at the London Wine Fair at the Serbian stand location B50. Milos will describe the 3 wines that will be available to taste at the fair: their white blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Grigio, their rosé blend of Pinot Grigio and Muscat of Hamburg, and the red blend of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. This being their first appearance at the fair, Milos is keen to share their wines and hospitality with sommeliers, journalists, and wine buyers. To discuss feedback and potential opportunities for these wines in the UK market, where Milos is working to see them placed. For more information on how to arrange a meeting with Milos during the London Wine Fair, simply visit interpretingwine.com/Panjkovic, spelling below, in order to learn more. Enjoy.
My name is Milos Panjkovic. I'm the owner and actively taking care of the winery, the vineyards, with my family since 1975. Initially, my father, who is also called Milos Panjkovic, initiated this somewhere in the 60s. And then my brother and myself and my mother, all like a family, started taking care of the vineyards that have been planted since I was very, very small. Basically, I grew with that vineyard, and the whole part of my life is very much connected to this vineyard and the wines that we're making and so on. The area is absolutely new. I don't know, people don't know about this area. The area is called Smederevo. Smederevo is 45 kilometers away from Belgrade in Serbia. Mm-hmm. People might have heard about Belgrade and Serbia, but not in the way that I'm going to explain it, or maybe give you different highlights of it. So this area has been known for viticulture since Roman time. Romans have recognized this hilly area that is looking on the Danube, which is on 200 meters above sea level, as a perfect place to grow grapes. Since then, all the way through the time, we've been growing grapes, making wines, and enjoying the whole process of it, because I think it's more about loving this whole culture of getting the plant growing and getting the grapes ripe and getting this everything done in a perfect timing in order to get the wine that you would initially want to have.
This is, I think, a really interesting point to show the longer term culture and the longer term appreciation of wine in Serbia, which, I think goes back a lot longer than a lot of people realize. But something I would also like to give a modern view and a modern insight into your winery? Because again, we've met before, and I know that you are doing some really interesting things, and I think you're working on a really interesting scale in terms of the size of production and the location of production. But could you kind of first off maybe introduce us to the people who are working alongside you as part of the project, and maybe just describe a little bit the roles and how they overlap?
I'm like the owner of the vineyard and winery and so on. I'm having my daughters involved in this. I'm having two enologists. The first one is Milorad Cilic, who has initially supported us and helped us at the time. We had several wines produced with his advices. And recently we have also engaged a new enologist called Stepan Bogicevic, who is a new fellow who has quite a clever ideas how he can do some stuff inside the natural way of producing wines, but keeping the freshness, reiterate something that we do have in our grapes and maybe losing it in something that we have not done before. So what we have evolved is from the times, I have to go back again to the time, because in the old days, we did not have ability to cool off the grape juice in order to get the fermentation controlled. In the old days, we did not have segregated gases to control the oxygen levels inside the barrels or so inside the tanks. So in the modern days, we do have this, and this is not any chemicals. It's like we're just keeping the natural flow of fermenting, and the process is natural, except that we are trying to keep it in levels that are getting us the freshness of the fruit that we initially started with. So you're gonna what we do is we have also wines that have presenting how it was done in the past, and we have wines that are which we are doing now, which have this freshness, have this new modern twist to the wine.
We've spoken at length as well previously, Milos, and I think that the catch-all term I would describe and what's coming through is that you want the wine to represent the terroir. You want the wine to represent the land, and that essentially, I think when you say natural, it's that idea of expressing, as you say, the freshness, the characteristics of the grape, and that they shouldn't be blocked or overpowered by any other influences.
What we do is the most work everybody or every winery has, it's done in the vineyard. So all the work is basically done there. We have to keep and care about those wines. Not a 1 year. It's like going in the process is 20 plus years, and you're taking care of those wines in a way that it's they are feeling happy. They're feeling nutrient that they can provide you with good, healthy grapes. Once you have this fruit, and when you pick that grape, you're going to sense those flavors that is coming from that year. But maybe some year is going to be a little bit more rain, or maybe it's going to be a little bit more sun. It's going to be a different climate. What we want to do is that once we pick that grape, until you open the bottle, you're going to feel that year. That's the idea. So you're going to sense the year that we produced it in, and you're going to see that some years had a more sun, equals that more sugar, equals that had a little bit more alcohol. But we are not altering anything. We do not add in sugar. We do not add in acids. We do not do anything to the fruit. And what we want to do is to get this juice to your glass in a most natural way. That's the idea.
Understood. And something that I'd like to encourage you to share again with me and to share with the listener is actually something you mentioned a few minutes ago before we started recording, which I thought gave a really interesting insight into the culture around wine in Serbia. Because again, I know a lot of my listeners have never been to Serbia, but they're interested to kind of learn more. And you mentioned how, I believe, when growing up and in many families across Serbia, they will actually be home winemakers, and they will actually have wine to share and wine to kind of compare with one another.
Correct. The history of winemaking goes back to Romans. Then we had Middle Age, we had wines. Then we had Milos Obrenović, who bought this big piece of land from the Turks, continued to work with wines. So you have the heritage of winemaking inside the population, and it's there. It's like people done this for generations. However, during the socialism, the socialism believed that the wine is a bourgeois thing. So it's like something that, it's not too clever to keep this growing of wines or improving the wine tastes. It's because it should be cheap and should be available to everybody.
Yeah.
However, the next door cellar that we have, which is Royal Obrenović cellar, did have the premium wines, and the wine cellar did continue producing high premium wines, which was even recognized on the World Wine Fair in Bordeaux in 1882, which is amazing that we did then been recognized by the world. And then since then, people just forgot us. So you have, instead of big states, you have smaller states, smaller vineyards that are continued producing something that they believe it's a higher quality wine, meaning it's coming from grapes, it's been natural, it's been everything that we're looking for now. It's like biodynamic, it is sustainable, it is organic. Everything that we need now today to certify, it used to be done normally. And as a culture, we used to drink wine instead of beer. So we are like more used to wine than to beer. And with this development, with the technology, it's been extremely exciting to have this old ways of winemaking improved and feeling what the potentials of this region can be. Some of my colleagues in the Association of Winemakers for Belgrade region have been awarded with very high prices in various international judgments and so on. And what I recommend is that people have to taste this. It's like a new area that maybe it's not known to everybody, but it's worthwhile a try. So on the London Fair, we're going to be presented only 7 wineries, not many, but only in our association, we have 36. So on the total territory of Serbia, we have approximately more than 300 wineries. So you can imagine the different varieties, the different tastes, the different things that you can come and try. Some big, some small, but it's something that is worthwhile to spend some time on. We have something that is called Slava. This is a saint that we celebrate in Serbia. And I think it's not, in Orthodox countries, it's not very familiar. We do have it, and Ethiopia has it, believe it or not. Okay. But on these events, we do have friends, guests come in our home, and we are, making some sort of, we are proud hosts to give the food and drinks to our guests. And what is happening is every home has its own great wine. So it's like every home would come up with either they produced or they came across a great winemaker. So everybody should try this. So it's, for us, the wine tasting or wine culture has been there at least as long as I live, and that's what I remember. But there is also recordings that it goes very long back. And we do cherish this quality wine making. That's the point. That's the people do recognize that something is not going right and something is not there particularly gone well. So you cannot fool the Serbians with the wine. That's for sure. You cannot get them with easy chemistry or the bulk wines. They can't drink it, but they're going to love it. So for them, it's like the real stuff.
Another reason it was really interesting as well to hear that, Milos, is that I've come across that more in winemaking communities. It's an established exchange. People will gather in each other's houses. They will kind of try each other's wines, talk about it, and oftentimes that's through a sort of an association or a structured exchange. But it sounds almost as though this is something. It has its own name, it has its own origin, and this is something that happens kind of normally and kind of spontaneously within Serbia.
What we do is we drink rakia on the beginning, so at least one or two just to taste it, what the host or domacin, as we say it, would offer, and then we go to wine. People obviously offer beer, but we're more wine drinkers than beer drinkers. And there is this big discussion of who made the better wine or why this winery did this. Can you imagine? They tried this and they, the culture is here already picked up to young enologists to have the courage to use their knowledges to do something different, to make a mark. And this is what we are here seeing. You have brilliant enologists that are mixing different types of grapes. They're doing different ripeness picking. They're trying to make different flavors with aging in oak or which level of barrique is going to be. So it is a lot of things already been done, except that it's not very well known around. It's mainly known in Serbia, and when visitors come, we can always show them this. I mean, this is happening around, and it's in our culture. It's something that we do every day.
I'm always interested in producers who, maybe have had another career, as I believe you have, and kind of coming across. And now it really feels as though you're really putting a strong emphasis on the winery, on sharing, on communicating, on getting the story out there, and in the process of in the future being able to welcome people at the winery. So I'd like to just sort of encourage you to go back in time almost a little bit and just talk a bit to, we've heard that the winery itself, through your father, through yourself, it does have a long history, but it feels as though maybe the winery also now has almost a second phase now where you're going through perhaps more professionalization, maybe scaling up the production. So I'm just curious, what were maybe some of the motivations for starting that phase, and what have been some key steps in that growth of the production?
The place itself has its own magic because it has a beautiful view over Danube, and it is always pleasant to be there. That's how it started. It started with a view. It started with a beautiful place to be there. And then secondly, we had this good friend of ours later to become, who was a chief enologist in this royal winery of Milos Panjkovic, who is next door to us, is like 100 meters away. So he started saying, like, why do you always think about getting some different plants? Why don't we get back the wines in the game? Everybody's talking about, I don't know, pears or, I don't know, apricots or these type of things. Go back to the grape. Wines are quite complicated and difficult to keep them. We had this old lady who had her vineyard there, from whom we bought the vineyard. And she was saying it's a hell of a work, And when you work with wine, it's like a lot of work. And we have a saying that people who work with wines are slaves, and the people who make a distillery are like kings. So you should not make the wine, you should make distillate. So it's like, this is the main job. But the process of doing it and being in the nature and communicating with this nature is something that is fulfilling me. And when I was a kid, when I was 4, and even now, I do have this need to be on that place. So we're going to have the wine and we're going to have the vineyard. So what do we do about it? My father was in opinion that it should be a closed thing. It should not be broadcasted. It should not be opened up. I am of a different opinion. I think that we need to broadcast what we are doing. And I think that people should know that something like that is existing, because not many people do understand that. We have invested a lot of money, although it's a small winery, but we have invested a lot of money, and we yet are planning to invest into something that is going to be like top-notch quality wines. And this is what we want to invest. We don't want to increase volumes. We want to increase quality. We do have good quality, and I think we're going to have even better quality. And this is something that I'm going to work on. And doing this, you need to explain it to your consumers. You need to explain it to your people who are going to work with you. And this is something that needs to be broadcasted. I cannot do it myself and sit with my wines, and it's going to do what with that? So that is the idea. So I'm not in this business because of money, because I have a successful career, and I'm working, I don't know, now almost 30 years as a trader, and I'm doing well with that. But this is something that I love to do, and this is where I always go back. And wine and vineyard is something that is passion. You cannot do wine without passion. And yes, you might make money out of it, but it's more like creating something that is likable to other people like you like it. So it's, I don't know, any painter that paints a picture, he doesn't think how he's going to sell it. He more thinks how he's going to get his emotion onto the canvas. And this is what I think we're doing to the wine. But maybe it's not that obvious. I think people think that it's like you just squeeze it here and comes there. It's much more complex than that. But that's about it. I mean, I'm more into it because of the passion towards making wine.
I think this would actually be an interesting time to just at a fairly high level to introduce the association, and maybe talk about some of the objectives and some of the future goals that you have to be able to welcome people at the winery. So to just take us on a little bit that journey, for you and as well, just giving a nod to the wider association as well.
So we have a association of geographical wineries. So all of us in this association are basically having our own vineyards in this region, and we are either already awarded or in process of getting geographical origin of the grapes. So all of these 36 at this moment is going to increase as we go along. All of them are in a stage of, some of them have already very good wineries, have very good places that you can come already and visit and taste their great wines. Some are yet to be built. Some are still in planting or getting their vineyards on the air. But in general picture is like, this is an old wine region, and it's only 45 kilometers away from Belgrade. And it's known for its wine centuries. It's not ages. It's like very, very old. So the idea is to, in a form of association, to join forces and come to the center that we can offer different types of wine, different tastes of wine, while you can make a day trip or 2-day trip in some very nice area next to Belgrade. So if you're visiting Belgrade by business or by pleasure, you can always spend a couple of hours of tasting some good wines and enjoying some great food and enjoy this pleasant environment we're having this at. So we would like to share this emotion that we have with this place. And this is why all this association is about. This is whole idea that we want to welcome people and introduce them to these small places that we cherish that much. So the winery was founded by my father in 1975, as I said before. And in those days, we produced wine, and it was produced by the people that owned initially the Royal Winery. So the whole concept was how it was made in the old days, when there was no temperature control, there was no oxygen control. So we did manage to make quite interesting wines from that angle. Something very similar to, I can say, Georgian wines or maybe Greek wines. This is, you can find these tastes which are very rich, very strong wines, and this is where it comes from, because the wine would be protecting itself by its alcohol, and that's how it could survive a longer period of time, and it would be always a full barrel. Mm-hmm. Now, through the time, we have invested a lot into equipment and into different ways of making the wine, but still remaining the same logic. It has to be natural. It has to be without any chemicals. So for the last 60 years, we had organic fertilizers. And the logic of it would be that the wines are healthy and they're like being able to give us the healthy fruit. With this, then we can do something else. But if we do not have a healthy environment, then, we wasted a lot of time and energy on something else. The next stage was getting this fermenting process controlled by temperatures. So at this moment, what we do is first we pick up the grapes. It's a single vineyard, so it's like everything is happening there. So we need max, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get all the grapes into the controlled environment. And all these grapes are then cooled to the temperature that we would like to. Obviously, they're picked in the right time. And this is something that is very important, because if you pick grapes a little bit earlier, then you're going to get the aromas and the acids. And if you get them a little bit later, then you're going to get the other phenols that you need for the full body taste and so on. So it's a matter of when we pick and how we pick it. It's all picked by hand. It's all transported very close by. And then we chill the grapes. Once we chill the grapes, then we get the normal process, everything. I think everybody knows this, but the whole concept is that we keep the fermentation within a certain set of temperatures for the white wines and certain set of temperatures for the red wines. And we get a special focus on in the pressing stage that we capture the free run, or if needed with very low pressure, allowing us to get the highest quality of juice fraction from our grapes. In our logic is less is more philosophy. So if we do not do much to those grapes, the grapes would give us the intended bouquet that we want. The fermentation is done in a controlled environment. And after fermentation, we're keeping it also in the inox chilled vessels that keep it constant temperature. And we are trying to keep our wines as long as possible on fine lees with a minimum number of racking. So the white wines, you will taste them in London, hopefully. You'll see the differences between a couple of years that we are going to bring there. On the red wines, we're playing again with the grapes, because we have Merlot and Cabernet, and we're going to have Probus very soon. The idea is to get these grapes coming from this area, which is very well known. And Merlot is finding these hills beautifully. I mean, we can pick Merlot, and I think we have already a couple of gold medals from our neighbors who have been awarded. Cabernet Sauvignon is also loving it, but it's a different Cabernet Sauvignon. I think that people, when they see that it's the same grape, they don't want to try it, but it's a different taste, because the mineralogy of this area is different, and the sun is different, and the Danube is different. So all of these elements influence the same grape. So if you try Cabernet from Italy or from France, you should try Serbia just to make a comparison, and you're going to see the differences. So the accent, or what I would like to iterate, is that what we do is try to preserve this small yield that we make on our vineyard into a juice that will be, once it's open, it's going to tell its story. That's what we always say. We are storytellers from the angle of the wine, because the wine is basically one of the medium that we can capture how the year looked like.
The aspect that you spoke about, and the view really that you spoke about, I think if we analyze it really does speak to a microclimate where you've got that created by the Danube, where you've got a certain amount of frost and extreme of weather protection. You've got a certain moderation from the Danube, which I thought was also interesting. Milos, when you described how, because of the aspect of the vineyards, you actually get this second sun coming across and actually then capturing that heat from the Danube itself. So you really have got a unique set of components there on the surface. Maybe again, please expand on that. I'm sure there's parts of that I've missed out, but I think also that would be an interesting point to also bring in the geology as well. To talk about, okay, the grapes are the communicators. They're communicating the place, but they're also communicating the geology and the soil that they're standing on.
The flat area in front of us, which is overlooking Danube. So we are on the hill. We have Danube, and then we have the flat area. That was formerly a sea. It was called the Panonsko More, or the Pannonian Sea. And this goes all the way up to Hungary. And you can taste these type of wines from Hungary, and a little bit, you have it also a little bit in the Romanian side. The same flat area has been inflicted to this hill. So what we have, we are like on 200 meters above the sea level, which is a perfect height. So we do not have frost. Now, just recently, we had this crazy year that we had 30 degrees in beginning of April and 4 degrees end of April. So our vineyard did not even feel it because of the height and because of Danube, because we have been protected by this microclimate that the Danube is providing us. Also very interesting is that the winery had cannons for the haze in the old days. And the cannons look very strange because it's more like ice cones. And they never used them. They never had to use it because we never had haze for last, 100 years. Again, Danube would be the protector, because any big storm that would come, they would just drag it further away. So even if it comes from a different angles, it does divert somehow. So we do have sufficient amount of rain. We have even snow in the winter. The temperature goes even some years into -10, -12, but we never had frost to the wines itself. The area is, if the year would be dry and sunny, this is something that we are looking at, because when I was a kid, we had much more snow than we have today. Now have years back looking without any snow, and snow is very important for the moisture of the land, of the soil. And the structure of the soil is that we have pebbles, sand, and fossilized clay. Plus, this combination is giving it the moisture would easily go deeper, as the roots of the vines are more than 1.5 meters and further down. So the depth is very important, but we are trying to keep the surface as open as possible. So what we are trying to do is not to have heavy machinery above, and to keep it as light machinery. And in every autumn, we open it up. So we allow the snow, if there is some snow, open to God, we would have some snow, or if not, then it's going to be just rain. And then in the spring, we bring back the grass, which is keeping the moisture inside. So the whole ground is airy, has a lot of air inside, has moisture, and the wines love it. We see it by their production, what they do. So that's a proof of it. In our vineyard, there is like 2 wines that this old lady, Kosara, who was living there when she sold to us her vineyard, which are older than 150 years old. So it's like, when you see them, they look very old. They look totally different than the new grapes that you have, because in those days they would grow them every time, cut them to the head, and each year they would allow a new spring to come out and to give the harvest. It's amazing plant. To understand that they can survive harsh weathers, they can survive very hot weathers, they can live in any type of part of the planet, and that's why it's called a divine plant. because you can see wines being grown in the volcanic islands, which it's amazing how they grow there. They don't even have moisture, but they manage to make them protection and get them the moisture, or they can live in a very rocky area. So it's a plant that can survive almost anything. And when it loves the area, then it gets the best fruits. And that's my opinion. You can plant them everywhere, but not all the grapes are going to be so good. So some of them are going to be better, some not. So it depends on the plant. The plant will figure it out where it likes.
Can I just clarify then? So are you saying that some of the vines that you're cultivating, they are that old? They are 150 years old?
But we're keeping them more like, how to explain this? We're keeping some of these wines just to show that we do have them. Main vineyards are basically 30 years. We have some of them that are 25. We have a new park now that is going to be relatively young, but we do have aged vineyards. And when the whole idea, when we started with the autochthon grapes like Smederevo, it was already 50 years old. So we had to renew them. It was some of them, it is easier to cultivate when you have it all as per book. So that's the idea. So what we are doing is basically keeping the clones that we have there from a very long time. And in Serbia, we have a good registry of clones, and we are exporting this around the world. So one of the countries exporting it is coming from Serbia. Like, we can import French and Italian clones, but we also have our own clones. So
I've got to say, Milos, a lot of this is quite new to me. I have spent a lot of time in Serbia. I have spent time in Belgrade. I have been out and visited vineyards and spoke with sommeliers and spoke with winemakers. But it's also just great to have the time with you to really go in depth on one piece of land, on one production, on one philosophy. And, all of these, I think, amazing stories are coming up. And I know that if I'm enjoying this, then the listeners are going to be enjoying this too.
Thank you.
Again, though, the most amazing thing about, I think, our timing and our collaboration is that the listeners who are going to be attending the London Wine Fair in May 2024, and presumably in some future editions as well, they'll be able to meet you. They'll be able to taste the wines that you're producing at the winery. So I think that would be a sensible thing to do, would be just to really go, maybe give an overview of the different wines that you're producing, but then also maybe just describe each one of those in turn and give a sense of what that tasting experience is going to be like.
We're going to be coming to London Wine Fair 20 to 22nd May this year, most likely next year as well, but we're going to see how it works this year. We're going to be on the stand B50 with the Serbian Chamber of Commerce. So it's going to be beside me another 6 wineries. So I really encourage listeners to come and taste some Serbian wines. My wines that they could taste, I'm bringing 2 whites, 2 reds, and 1 rosé. For the whites, I'm going to bring 2020 Radost. We call it Joy, and it's basically Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon Blanc. What we did is we mixed the 2. Not many people do this. Usually these 2 varieties do not go together. What we try to do, and I think we succeeded, is to get the aromatics from the Sauvignon and get the body from Pinot Grigio, which does not have that much body, but we did manage to get the body out of it. And you're going to sense something that is, in my opinion, very interesting. It is 23.2% of dry extract inside of it. So it's close to the red wines. When you taste a full-bodied white wine, you're going to be amazed with the flavor. Something also with it, which people do not like, but I have it. It's 14.5% of alcohol, but you cannot understand that there is that much alcohol because it's still fresh, it's very vibrant, and it's very nice. The same grape, the same assortment, but we did differently now. We combined it in a different way, and we decreased the maceration to it. So we got a lighter version of it, which is having only 13% of alcohol. So we cannot get lower. That's I know that everybody is talking about we have to go down to 9, but honestly, I don't know. It's going to be a challenge to get there. But at this moment, we have this fresh, more summery combination that is refreshing, and it's as my enologist is saying, it's asking you for the second glass. So it's like, when you try the first one, you want to try the next one. So that type of 2 white ones coming. The reds, are basically the Bordeaux coupage. I mean, it's like Merlot and Cabernet, and not much you can do about Merlot Cabernet, except if you're coming from this region. Now, Merlot loves it, Cabernet loves it. So what we did is we played with the times of picking up Merlot and Cabernet. You're going to try 2020 and you're going to try 2021 and you're going to see the difference. So we also did try to show that whatever we do in the vineyard or whatever we do in the winemaking does show, and this is something that that's the idea, that we want to be recognized by this imprint that we are doing. On the rosé, who we called Courage, is because it is a rosé, but it is a very rosé with a twist. So we used the autochthon grape called Muscat Hamburg with Pinot Grigio. And the idea was to macerate it longer and to get from the red grape earlier and from Pinot Grigio later. So the combination of the two, you would have something that the Spanish people say that it looks like the pre-dessert wine that they consume a lot. So all of our wines are dry except Courage. Courage has 15% of alcohol, believe it or not, has remaining sugar of 12, but you cannot sense this sugar. That's the key point. So it is a very interesting wine that you could either drink as a last wine before the dessert, and that's the idea, or you can go ahead with it all time. Most of them are basically 25 plus. So I'm having Sauvignons and Pinot Grigios. They're more in the 30s. The Merlot and Cabernet are 25, and the Hamburg is very, very old because it's an old grape. So I think it's more, I don't know, it's also 30 years old. All of these wines have been producing continuously, and we have been producing wines continuously. So what we did, and for me to make it like a clear cut, I started making different approach, and this is why we are kicking off as a 2020. And this is where we kick off, and we do have wines before, but I want to start off with 2020 onwards. The older wines, we're going to keep it for our private collection, and they're not going to be offered at all. And we don't want to even, get them introduced, because it's quite. We did keep for each year a certain amount to keep it as a refreshment of those years. And there is a familiar emotion to that. So put it that way.
And I think also, which I think deserves its own separate section here, and its own separate focus, is actually to talk about the names that you've chosen to name each of those wines: Joy, Courage, and Wisdom. Because I believe, again, there's some personal significance in the choice of those names and how it relates to you, the family, and the land.
So usually, whenever you have something joyful happening, and this is usually some parties or any joyful gatherings, we personally drink white wines, and this is something easygoing. We can drink in, and we love it. When we go to the red wines, usually we're already in thoughts. We're already. When we start the red wines, we ended up with red wines and maybe with some cognac on the end. But this is already. That's why we gave it the name of Wisdom, because you're already having your own thoughts. You're within your own scope of what you're going to do next, or what are your plans, and what is great, what is not so great, and so on. On the Courage, it is something that we wanted to show that we do stuff with Courage. I don't think other, in Serbia, you have plenty of wineries trying something, but not many would have the courage to go into the market with such a wine. Honestly, I mean, they would be a little bit scared to say, if I go with a semi-sweet with 15% of alcohol. I heard so many people saying, like, you're insane. This is not, why would you do that? And once we did it, they said, wow, it's great.
Yeah.
You need to have this little bit of courage to move some stuff. I mean, it's not going to happen itself. We have to move them.
I think it's also a point well made, Milos, just around the communication of wine, because it is something that we talk about a lot in the UK. We talk about how wines are communicated, and I personally feel as though sometimes we talk about the consumer, as though it's a giant living up in the hills somewhere. It's like the consumer is me, the consumer is you, the consumer is everybody. And I just think that, and I suspect that in the past, we've maybe, in the wine world, we've maybe been a bit lazy about how we communicate about wine, and we've allowed ourselves to just reduce everything to an alcohol level, or reduce everything to a sugar level, and say, oh, okay, yeah, it tastes like this because it's got this much alcohol, or it's got this color, or it's got this much sugar. And I think that this is missing something so special and so fundamental, which is that each time, the once a year that you have the chance to make wine, you're going to come out with something different. Even if you've got the same grapes, you've got the same soil, you're going to come up with something different. So that courage, that you're saying there, that is its unique own special thing. And I think that it needs to be tasted on its own merits. It's not just a semi-sweet rosé. It's like, try the courage and let the courage talk to you.
I fully agree. That's so well said. Every wine has its own story, and every winery in the world has its own story. So whatever we as a consumers, I have been experiencing different wines, different tastes, and I'm always open to try something new. I was always intrigued why something went to this direction, how they managed to do that, how do they this. There is such a big scope of different tastes that you can absolutely naturally get out of the juice that you have every single year. So just to give you a hint, if you keep your temperature while fermenting on the white wine below 18 degrees, you're going to save some of the aromas that are gone above 18. So on the red grapes, you don't need it on the 18 because you want the aromas that grape has disappeared. So it's only about the temperature. I'm going to move the temperature one or up or down. I'm going to have a different taste. And this is everything is like you're coloring the taste palette, and the whole logic behind it is how can you get your taste palette in your mouth absolutely full. And this is a lot of work, and I'm not that knowledgeable about that. That's why I always hire somebody who does know more about it than me. So all these brilliant enologists have been good enough to help me and give this give very good insight of how we can improve that with these new techniques.
So as we're sitting here, just a few short weeks from the London Wine Fair 2024, where you will be making your debut, I'm going to ask you to sort of look ahead, really, and think ahead, and almost visualize, yourself on the stand B50 at the London Wine Fair, and maybe just talk a bit to what are the sorts of people who you're hoping to meet there, and for the winery, what are maybe some of the objectives and the goals that you've set for yourself coming out from a fair like that.
So for one, I would like to come and to show to the UK public that this does exist. I've been studying in UK, and I've known London, that London is a place that you can find almost everything from the world will come there. So people are used to taste different things. People are used to be open and understandable on a way how something coming from a different part of the world can be so delightful and so nice. Many other countries do have an issue about that, but in UK and in London, there is no issue about it. So I believe this is something that I'm expecting, that we're going to have a lot of people open to new wines, new regions, new flavors, that they would be maybe interested to come and taste something, and maybe they fall in love with that. It's more like I'm more looking to get people to taste the wines and then make their judgments. Serbian wines, I deeply believe, will have a great future, and this is something that will be continuously improved, and throughout not only the wine fair that you have in London, but also the other wine fairs that are happening in Europe, as well as some of them in US. We will be broadcasting that we came on the map. We have been there, but people did not really recognize that we exist. I know that some of my colleagues have already been to the London Fair, that they're already importing wines to London market. And there is a very good response from the market. People love it. People say that it's something totally new. Yes, you have maybe some local grapes, which can be interesting to try, but you also have very well-known grapes with a different flavor. So I really call everybody to come and visit us. It might be a very interesting experience for everybody, for us to present ourselves and for them to come and try it.
I'd also just like to, invite you to almost visualize yourself on the hill, in this place where your vineyards are, and just talk a bit about how do you see the future in terms of the winery itself, the facilities developing, and then equally anything actually on the production side in terms of the grapes, the aspects, anything that you feel you're able to share.
So what we're now in process, and this is going to be finalized, I hope, in a year time. We're going to improve our space in our cellar. We're creating a new space, and this is going to be allowing us to age in different types of barrels. And this is something that this is a new era for us. Once this is finished, then we're going to have aged red wines with a different barrique level. So it's going to be interesting. On the improvement, we will look into the new techniques. I've seen spheres. I've seen very good stuff coming out from improving the body of the wines. So we're looking into improving our wines to get to the higher level, and this is what we're going to do in the forthcoming future. Not necessarily increasing the volume, because increasing volume means having more vineyards, having more issues. My idea is to keep as we are, but to get this quality improved way much. So you'll sense the 2020, you're going to sense 2021, 22, 23, everything is happening now. What we are now doing is we are already having better and better wines, and I'm expecting to have this nice future ahead of us. And hopefully some people who can recognize our efforts and maybe start enjoying our wines. That's the whole idea.
So, as you already heard, Serbia is somewhere where I've spent time, where I feel very at home, and where I think has a lot of potential, not only on the winemaking side of things, but also on the enotourism side. So, as we've already looked ahead to the London Wine Fair, in closing, I asked Milos for an update on how my listeners can visit the winery. Again, this is located a mere 45 kilometers or 1 hour drive from the city of Belgrade, Serbia. A city you may well be lucky enough to already know, or somewhere I hope that having listened this far, you'll seriously consider visiting in the future.
What we want to do is to expand the space and to make in that space a new tasting area that is going to be interactive with the outside where you come. And the whole idea is that once you come to the winery, it's not going to be you're going to be in some four walls. The whole idea is that you're going to be interacting with the environment around you on the position that is, in our opinion, one of the best positions on the whole vineyard, and also with huge terraces and a huge area which you're going to really enjoy the vineyard. You're going to taste the wines in the vineyard. That's the idea. This is something that we're working on, and this is going to happen, I hope, in the next year time. So we are working on this heavily, and this should be done in a year time. In the meantime, we can welcome people and we can organize tastings. And this is something that, in the meantime, people, if they come and they want to see the place, they're always welcome. So we can organize something, but everything has to be pre-arranged or pre-agreed.
A huge thanks to today's guest, Milos Panjkovic of Vinarija Panjovic, sharing today the most up-to-date coverage of a modern Serbian producer available anywhere in English. This is a really exciting time for Serbian wine, and I look forward to covering this region again soon. As you can hear, Milos is looking forward to connecting with you at the London Wine Fair in person from Monday the 20th to Wednesday the 22nd of May 2024. Once you're at the show, you can find Milos at the Serbian stand, location B50, and make sure you let him know you heard his episode on interpreting wine. I'll be spending time at the London Wine Fair across all 3 days this year, and I hope to meet many of you there too. See you next time.